So I'm going to talk about also DeFi and the role of non-custodial wallets. Thanks, Philip, for the introduction. I think it was like also a little bit missing kind of like the definition of DeFi, but it's good. It's in my presentation as well. So we have a little bit of overlap, but I think it's adding up to each other pretty well. Also, as Philip was mentioning, the DFF, the Digital Finance Forum. So I'm going to the next meeting after this presentation. So therefore I will speak a little bit faster than always. So who am I? So I'm Peter. So like in the introduction, so I have a technical background. Started my career as a developer, founded a software development company, sold it, came to Berlin, joined the company builder as a CTO, and as this company builder decided to move into fintech with founding FinLeap as a company builder. That was my segue into the finance world. So before I never thought I would ever work in the financial industry, and I've never expected that I would become an expert in that, but things come different in life. So if you say more yes than no. Yeah, and so I built up Solaris Bank from the scratch as the CTO, joined as the 5th employee, left when it was a 300 people company. I wanted to work full time in crypto, so which brought me to Börse Stuttgart as a managing director, building up Börse Stuttgart Digital Exchange, so the digital assets exchange of Börse Stuttgart, kind of like a multilateral trading facility for trading crypto and other decentralized assets. And a little bit less than 1 year ago, we founded Unstoppable Finance, and our mission is to bring DeFi to the masses, and I'm going to say a little bit about it later. So let's pick up in the beginning as well. So why are we here? So we all believe that the internet and the invention of the internet was already a big thing like 20, 30 years ago. And experts like me and like Philip, and I think most of you believe that there is now the next disruptional event happening with blockchain and Web3 as like a groundbreaking technology that will become as big as the development of the web. And so what's so revolutionary about it? So we now can not only transfer information and data, it's really about to transfer or to transact value from A to B. And so I assume most of you know what a blockchain is. So it's a decentralized, in my definition, it's a decentralized database where most of the node operators who kind of run a database node are unknown to each other. And so why is this important? So because it's like running a complex part of software together with many people that you don't know, and that's also the innovative part about it, that people are kind of like joining forces, interconnected with certain rules and procedures called like the protocol and the consensus mechanism, so that everyone is incentivized to run this node in the way that everyone expected to be. Another definition that I most often use, especially when explaining blockchain to finance people, is so like blockchain is like a big global decentralized self-service core banking system. Yeah, so kind of core banking system. It's the systems that run in every bank, kind of managing the accounts. It's self-service because people can simply create a key pair, and with their private key, they can identify themselves as the asset owner or like the owner of an account. So in the end, you don't need an intermediary to do that. And also you don't need SEPA and SWIFT kind of protocols to transact value between, let's say, different core banking systems and banks, and also between different jurisdictions, because the blockchain is running worldwide. It's the same for everyone, and in the end, everyone can interact with everyone. And additionally to blockchain, kind of as a means for storing transactions and running accounts and sending value from A to B, there's for example with blockchains like Ethereum, there's the smart contract layer added to it. It's like a layer on top of this storage of transactions. And smart contracts enable people to build applications on top of the blockchain. And that's the foundation for what we see with DeFi now, that people are building kind of financial services on top of a blockchain. And that's totally innovative, and we will see it later. So Andreessen Horowitz was stating in 2011, software is eating the world. 11 years later, we've seen Amazon revolutionizing retail, Spotify, the music industry. Almost all service became better, cheaper, faster than ever before. Yeah, so we know how convenient it is to order stuff online through Amazon, and there's even people not leaving the house in Berlin anymore because you can get everything from gorillas. So kind of life changed a lot for us. But now looking, but there's probably one industry that didn't face so much change, and it's the financial service and banking industry. If we look at it today, so just for me, it's kind of, so I'm saying it every time when I give a presentation, to me like an example. So why it still feels so outdated to me is, first of all, that it's not global. So I'm trying for the last 3 weeks to pay a provider, kind of like a technical provider in the US with my current company, and it's so complicated to get like a bank account, get registered, kind of sending all the documentation and so on. And I'm not talking about like a Cayman Island multilateral super complex company here. It's like a German GmbH with a few stakeholders, and mostly private people and investment firms that are well known. So it shouldn't be that complicated to open an account for making international money remittance. And at the same time, I think every one of us is kind of like used to real-time data processing for probably the last 10 years. So we use WhatsApp, we use push notifications. Everything in technology is kind of delivered within real time from one device to another. But in banking, kind of doing real-time transactions is still not the default, right? Even some banks let you pay extra for doing real-time money remittance with Target 2 and SEPA Instant. And in the end, the standards are defined kind of like when even the euro was invented. Yeah, so it's like they're planning it for the past 20 years, and it's still not the default. And this shows how slowly this whole industry is moving. And furthermore, so we've seen a lot of problems in the past, especially the big scandals like around Wirecard, Cum-Ex, then also Lehman causing the financial crisis. A lot of money laundering cases like from HSBC and whatever Swiss secrets and what else we've seen in the past years. So in the end, regulators are trying to put more rules to the banking industry, but potentially, so if somebody wants to trick the system and wants to manipulate something, kind of humans are super creative. So in the end, they will always do it. And potentially, so if we continue the way we do banking and financial service industry today, we might need to put like for each employee in the bank, like one regulator sitting right next to him or her, kind of really observing what's done, but still kind of humans will be very creative to manipulate. So what developments do we see right now? So Philip also described it kind of like in another graphic. So there's first the money revolution with Bitcoin being invented more than a decade ago, and showing that it's possible to run a decentralized payment system, so where the node operators don't know each other and where you have decentralized trust. So it was like the big proof, and it kicked off like a big wave of also layer 1 blockchains hitting the space, and like new cryptocurrencies being invented. Also cryptocurrencies as a means of speculation for trading it really become an industry. So there's even in Germany a Krypto-Verwahrlizenz, like a crypto custody license that has been introduced already years ago. So which shows that it's that there's interest from retail investors, but it's also kind of like a investment asset that really matches also the zeitgeist of future generations. Then the second revolution, which is probably still in the very beginning and just showing that that it makes sense and that it will become big, and it's DeFi. So and what's the comparison between kind of like the first one and now between DeFi? For me, it's less about introducing new coins and speculating on them. It's more kind of really building financial services on top of blockchain. Yeah, so because it's people can kind of get a loan and get different financial services that are operated and served on a completely different stack. And then kind of as a third development, also a big buzzword these days, it's the whole development around Web3. So many people see with blockchains and tokenization kind of a new internet happening, kind of the internet of value, how many also call it. And the idea is that in the end, on top of the technology of blockchains and also wallets and private key cryptography, you can build a lot of use cases. In the end, have items in the metaverse, have a digital identity, and so on. And in the end, many experts, and I include myself, see Web3 and DeFi and also the money revolution with Bitcoin and with cryptocurrencies. This all will lead into a future where digital ecosystems will melt into each other. So it's not that we're going to have like different silos for different services in the digital space. So this will become one. So what is DeFi then? So DeFi, from my perspective, is financial services built and delivered through smart contracts and being operated on top of a blockchain. So very, very simple. So what's the advantages of it? So first of all, it's permissionless. So everyone who wants to interact with such a financial service can do this. No matter where you are located on the world, it's global by default. It's available for everyone, and everyone can simply connect to it. Furthermore, it's open and it's interoperable. So which means, so to give you another example from banking, so there's the big trend of open banking and also PSD2 access to bank account regulation and all these kind of things, which all had the intention to make banking more interoperable and data more portable, so that bank accounts can be used also in different digital setups. It failed massively, I would say. Nobody has ever used, or most of the people might have never used open banking features, because it's also quite complicated, and banks are pretty restrictive because they believe that they will lose customers through that. In the end, what we see with DeFi and with permissionless blockchains or public blockchains, how Philip called it, it's kind of open banking by default. Yeah, so because every smart contract which is publicly available on the blockchain is like an open API. Everyone can see the code, everyone can see the interfaces, everyone can build on top. And that also leads into something which is called Lego or money Legos in the in the crypto speech, which means that also different services in the DeFi space are using each other. For example, when you have a lending protocol that takes crypto assets as a collateral, so if the collateral price is falling and hitting a certain threshold, then this lending protocol can liquidate these assets. And that's happening on decentralized exchanges, which is also a smart contract interface, which is integrated into this protocol. And this shows kind of that in a very short amount of time, people were able to build interoperable and interconnected applications very quickly. Furthermore, and that's kind of also with a little bit of view on regulatory topics that are covered later in a later session. It's super transparent and that's and also manipulation free, because once a smart contract is deployed to the blockchain, you can't change it anymore that easily. So now, like, connecting against the dots of what I said earlier. So who is the biggest enemy of regulation in kind of like in the traditional world? It's the human, because humans are manipulating, humans are doing fraud, try to get like a benefit for themselves, and in the end, you can't trust them, and therefore regulation requires banks having very structured processes, having kind of like a separation of the organization and Marktfolge, having controls, 4I principles, and the auditors are controlling the controls and so on. And this is all kind of built just really to make sure that there's nobody manipulating, but still people do. And I personally, having quite some experience with working in banks and even building banks, so I really believe that this technology, having a smart contract that could be audited once before go live, and then being deployed, and then kind of the the financial services 100% automated, delivered to people, so no human interaction, no human process behind it. I really believe that this should be the foundation for kind of anything in the future, and to build really a better financial service system. And furthermore, if something is 100% automated, it's also very cheap. So I believe that kind of if DeFi is doing its homework, then yeah, so the traditional finance industry can't beat it. So what's delivered in DeFi? So there's like a few foundational technologies. So for example, stable coins, kind of as a digital representation of a fiat currency. That's kind of the foundation for many DeFi services. In the end, Philip described it as well, crypto lending. So getting a loan and earning an interest rate on the blockchain is quite familiar to many people. Then decentralized exchanges became also pretty big. So exchanges like Uniswap on some days really have the same trading volumes like Coinbase, which is coming from retail users using it, but also due to these integrations between protocols, so that exchanges are also used protocol to protocol. There's projects adding derivatives to the DeFi space, for example, also to hedging currencies, and kind of on-chain asset management platforms. Yeah, so many experiments. In the end, and when I also say that I believe that DeFi potentially can replace, like in a couple of years or decades, also the traditional finance industry, I see now like protocols really implementing parts of the old system on a new stack. So for example, like with exchanges, with brokerage, with asset management, and over the next years, we will see more functions and features of a bank being implemented on DeFi, up to the point that kind of like everything is there that people need, and then it can have a bright future. So what's now the role of the non-custodial wallets here? So I described it in the beginning when talking about blockchain. In the end, to become a participant in this whole movement, you need to have a non-custodial wallet and kind of having a private key, so that you can identify yourself that you're the owner of a crypto wallet and of a crypto address and of the funds that are living there. And as the DeFi protocols work without an intermediary, so the wallet directly interacts with that. So which means, so if you want to, for example, use Compound or like a lending protocol, you go to their website, and then you connect your wallet to that DeFi service. And once that's done, kind of the protocol can see what assets you have in your wallet, and then you can kind of like decide where to invest. You sign it with your private key, you sign the transaction, and then you're already invested into DeFi. Kind of as Philip talked about Celsius as well, kind of like a so-called CDeFi player. So I also don't believe that there is like a gray area, or like a kind of like in between hybrid scenario, because either you're fully custodial, which means the bank or the operator is 100% also responsible to deliver back your funds. As these companies are more and more regulated like banks, they also need to have kind of risk management and different measures where the regulators will force them to comply to those. I can't imagine that these risk topics are really matching to what DeFi offers, because in the end, in DeFi, like the biggest risk in DeFi is that the protocol could get hacked. And I think so. Maybe Philip knows, but I don't know any way, like in risk management, to really deal with such a scenario. Despite them kind of letting the user kind of take the full downside, but that's, I think, not really manageable in a custodial setup. With the non-custodial world, so where people manage their funds themselves, of course they need to manage their risk themselves. And I really believe that the future also of DeFi investment will be to really split the funds over like a bunch of different protocols, and so deploy money kind of like in a portfolio approach. So kind of I hope that most protocols will mature over time, so which means less hacks and more security to the users. I also believe that in the future there will be some sort of liability umbrella, Einlagensicherungsfonds, that's operated by protocols, but we're still in the very beginning, and this will take some time. What else is so important when talking about wallets? Well, so we believe that the wallets will become kind of the super apps, or like the ultimate apps 2.0, like in the digital space, because well, there's the word super apps in traditional finance, kind of Uber, and you can whatever order food and make payments. So kind of there's like one app delivering a lot of services. As I described, as this crypto technology with private keys is so universal, so that you can tokenize assets, you can have cryptocurrencies, you can have stable coins, you can use financial services, you can implement digital identity, you can have metaverse items, have whatever the golden football shoe from FIFA soccer in your wallet, getting a loan kind of on that because you use it as a collateralization. You have login for social networks, you hold your data in your wallet and grant it to different services. So in the end, everything is built on the same technology, and also gets kind of like interweaved into each other, so that you can use the metaverse asset in your finance kind of like domain to get a loan. And this is all already in front of us, and the technology is there, and people are starting to experiment with that. And I think in the speed DeFi develops further, it's very difficult for traditional industry to catch up. So what are my final thoughts coming to an end? So you might have noticed that I'm a big DeFi fan. Also coming to this point of efficiency again. So this is a statistic from the ARK Invest Big Ideas report, where they compared kind of traditional organizations, for example, the New York Stock Exchange, with Uniswap, and kind of here you can see how much revenue is done kind of per employee. And you see kind of that all the DeFi protocols kind of are able to make more revenue with like a smaller amount of organization or like of people working in there. So it shows that it's super efficient. We also see a lot of kind of so this this graphic is from before the kind of like market situation that we've seen now, but there's like more and more people moving their funds from centralized players to non-custodial and start to use DeFi. So therefore we believe also after the crisis this will continue, and people will more trust themselves than really trusting others. Yeah, and this all together, so DeFi with all the properties of being open, permissionless, decentralized, more difficult to manipulate, 100% automized, and super transparent. We really believe that we can build the best financial service and banking ecosystem that ever existed in human history. Just coming to an end, so what are we doing with Unstoppable Finance? So as I said, we want to bring DeFi to the masses, and we have three kind of streams how we do this. First, we want to make it really easy to people. So we built a non-custodial wallet, which is built from tech people for non-tech people, so for the retail user. We do protocol curation, so to really find like being like a co-pilot, navigating our users through the DeFi space, so that they know where to invest or also what protocol to trust potentially. And we integrate these protocols deeply into our UI, so that there's no media breaks and you don't need to jump in the browser. Secondly, we do a lot of education. So thanks for the invitation here to give a presentation, because we really believe it's about going out and explaining it to people, not offering the next e-learning platform just to do the self-service. And the third thing is, so we also need to shape the whole society, because of course not everything is perfect yet in the DeFi space, and we've seen these developments around Luna and so on. So there's definitely room for improvement, but the components and the Lego bricks are there to build something better than we have today. It's really about also showing regulators, politicians, policymakers, talking to them and explaining so how we could use these Lego bricks to build something better, which also is in their interest, because kind of it will generate tax payments in the future, and it will also also bring jobs to Europe and to Germany. And therefore, we are pretty engaged in talking to politicians and heading to a Ministry of Finance in a few minutes now for the next Digital Finance Forum meeting. And if you want to learn more, you can go on our website. You can contact me. You can follow me on Twitter. Definitely happy to connect with you guys. Thank you.